occult video games, and then there are cult video games. The former refers to games that for one reason or another didn't sell as well as expected on launch, but built up a small yet devoted following over time. The latter are games in which shady and mysterious groups of individuals do shady and mysterious things, often with disastrous or downright bizarre results. This is a list about the latter. Indeed, today we'll be focusing mainly on the weird and wonderful side of fanatical devotion, and taking a look at the video game cults that run the gamut of strangeness, from the skin-crawlingly creepy to the utterly unhinged. Naturally, real-world cults are pretty scary things and can be quite dangerous, and this list is intended to no way make light of that. We're just here to gently rib on the objectively ridiculous beliefs of a bunch of fictional digital whack jobs. So with that in mind, I'm Ashton from TripleJump, and here are the 10 strangest cults in video games. Number 10, the happyism cult, Earthbound. If there's one thing a good cult promises, it's the chance of a happier life. And it's even better if they can get their promise across nice and early, say in their name. So if you're searching for a cult based on name alone, you'd be hard-pressed to do better than Earthbound's happyism cult. Alas, if you do decide to venture into their headquarters in Happy Village and join their ranks, you may be in for a shock. You see, this cult's leader, Mr. Carpenter, is more than a little bananas. He's utterly obsessed with the colour blue. It's not entirely clear why, but Mr. Carpenter is convinced that the key to happiness is to paint everything in the world blue. And he does mean everything. His hair is blue, his beard is blue, his suit and the robes his followers wear are, you guessed it, blue, and by the time the player finds him, everything in Happy Village has been painted blue, from the sides of the buildings to the poor old cow. With all this promise of happiness and peace, you'd have thought they'd have picked a less depressing colour. Oh, that reminds me of a joke. What do you do with a blue cultist? Try to cheer him up, of course. I'm here all week. Number 9, the Eternalists, Deathloop. There's a saying which goes, live every day as if it were your last. But what would you do if every day was indeed your last, and each night at midnight everything got reset? Would you live it up and party, do something incredibly stupid and life-threateningly dangerous, or would you simply go crazy? This is the purgatory Deathloop's Eternalists have willingly trapped themselves in, and if their wacky cult is anything to go by, the answer is all three. Likely deriving their name from the philosophy of eternalism, the idea that all moments in time exist simultaneously and are all equally real, or simply from the fact they are stuck in a time loop, these Eternalists are snared in an ever-repeating cycle of hedonism, debauchery, and standing on precarious ledges. Where the cult part comes in is in their fanatical devotion to their chosen visionary, one of the mad scientists who created the loop, as well as the fact they all wear masks to conceal their identities and detach themselves from their old lives and inhibitions. An endless party without any repercussions may sound like a reveler's dream, but if I had to spend every day being punted into the sea until the end of time, I'd have to politely decline the invitation. Number 8, the Brotherhood of Nod, the Command & Conquer series. Many cults aspire to world domination, but few have the power to actually achieve it. The Brotherhood of Nod from the Command & Conquer series is the exception. The franchise is famous for both its groundbreaking RTS gameplay and for giving the world the gift of hearing Tim Curry yell the word SPACE in the least convincing Russian accent you'll ever hear. It also introduced gamers to the Brotherhood of Nod. Equal parts terrifying and campy, the Brotherhood of Nod has served as a primary antagonistic faction since the very first game. Led by the charismatic Chrome Dome Kane, who presents himself as some kind of messianic figure, these quasi-religious fundamentalists seek only to save humanity from itself, via the always lovely means of conquering the Earth and setting up a new world order. They hope to gain control of the precious resource, Tiberium, and use it as a catalyst for the next stage of human evolution, whether humanity likes it or not. Armed to the teeth and then some, with their Black Hand troopers, Devil's Tongue flame tanks, and towering laser cannons known as Obelisks of Light, the Brotherhood of Nod is set to see its goals through to fruition, especially if the player is in control. As for Kane, he's not the Messiah.
He's a very naughty boy!
Number 7, the Epsilon program, Grand Theft Auto 5. Never one to shy away from satire, Grand Theft Auto 5 occasionally takes a break from poking fun at hipsters and blowing up tech billionaires on live TV to take a few jabs at Hollywood cults. Not naming any names, but plenty of cults exist, solely to leech as much money from the desperate and gullible as physically possible, and boy does GTA 5 know it. While playing as Michael, players may find themselves drawn to a strange website hosted by the mysterious Epsilon program. Answer an increasingly bizarre series of questions to evaluate your identity. Highlights from these include: do you want to understand completely to be complete? And do your checks clear? And players will be contacted by the totally legit and not at all shady cult and asked to complete a few missions to test their faith. These missions are a wonderfully satirical exercise in tedium and player patience, as well as a means to find out just how much money one is willing to invest in order to see what happens next. If you have money to burn and the patience to run around a desert for 20 to 25 real-world minutes, then maybe you have what it takes to become an Epsilonist. Kiflom! Number 6, The Children of the Atom, Fallout series. If it weren't for our rule of one entry per franchise, half the spots on this list could be taken by Fallout cults. From the human tree hybrid worshipping tree minders to the ritualistic cult of the Mothman, the irradiated wastes of the Fallout series are filled to bursting with devious and delirious devotees. But it's the children of the atom who get our vote for the strangest. Everyone is welcome to their own beliefs. But when you set about worshipping the very thing that brought about the end of days, it may be time to reevaluate somewhat. Introduced in Fallout 3, this lovely community first sprung up in Megaton, where a handful of zealots began worshipping an unexploded atomic bomb, the weapon that reduced the rest of the world to a heap of irradiated ashes. Why would anyone worship such destruction? Easy. You just have to take the entire concept of nuclear war and flip it on its head. The children of the atom believe that within every atom there exists another universe, and that when an atom is split, 2 new universes are created. In their minds, the Great War was a divine event in which countless new worlds were made. Bet they weren't best pleased when low karma players chose to detonate their home though, were they? Number 5, your cult. Honey, I joined a cult. A little bit of a wild card here. In most games, such as all the others on this list, the cult in question comes fully formed from the mind of the developers, but this is not so in Honey, I Joined a Cult. In this wacky 70s-inspired trip of a game from the minds of Worms publisher Team 17, you are in charge. And that means your cult can be as straight-laced or off-the-wall as you'd like. The only limit is your imagination, and the confines of the game's mechanics, of course. Part rollercoaster tycoon, part prison architect, Honey, I Joined a Cult puts the player in the role of the charismatic cult leader, gives them all the tools they need to succeed, and says go for it. From there, the world is your oyster. Do you cater for your disciples' every need, treating them to spas and shows? Spread your thoroughly thought-out doctrine of peace and happiness through any means to as many ears as will listen? Or turn your cult into a money-making machine that squeezes every last penny out of its members until they are so poor and destitute they can't leave? It's completely up to you. Cults don't really do that last one, do they? Number 4, The Order, Silent Hill series. Now we're veering heavily into horror territory, and oh boy, or girl or other, do horror games really know how to ratchet up the strangeness when it comes to creepy cults. Silent Hill's The Order is a prime example. The fog-engulfed streets of Silent Hill hide enough terror as it is. From fleshy humanoids to the physical manifestations of the player character's subconscious desire to be punished for the reprehensible thoughts and deeds of his past, it's not surprising you won't find this town at the top of the must-visit holiday destinations list. But if The Order got their way, things would be much, much worse. The cult has one clear, if entirely bonkers, goal: to bring about the birth of a literal god. And this being Silent Hill, neither the method or the result is particularly pretty. Various dark rituals, human sacrifices, and a young woman to act as a surrogate mother, willingly or unwillingly, are all required to see this god brought into the physical realm. And if just one part goes wrong, bye-bye god. And that's where you come in, dear player. But what would have happened had you not been there to save the day? The apocalypse, of course. What is it with horror cults and bringing about the end of the world? Number 3. The Church of Unitology, the Dead Space series. If your religion teaches that the next stage of human evolution is to turn yourself into a brainless, scythe-armed monster, maybe it's time to find a new religion. The Dead Space series' Church of Unitology preaches the outwardly appealing message of unity and harmony, as well as an end to mankind's destructive materialistic course. Sounds all flowers and rainbows, right? Wrong. Because the Unitologist version of this unity unfolding should send even the most curious of potential followers running. Unitologists worship the Maker, a massive towering stone obelisk covered in runes, which existed long before humanity evolved. According to their beliefs, this marker guided human evolution to where it is now, and will continue to guide it in the future. What does this future entail? Well, it starts with everyone being transformed into the horribly grotesque necromorphs. Main protagonist Isaac Clarke is forced to slice apart limb by limb, lest they do the same to him. And it ends with squishing everyone on Earth together into a gigantic living moon. This is known as a convergence, and the Unitologists will stop at nothing to see it come to pass. Seriously, what is it with horror cults and wanting to bring about the end of the world to create a human moon? Number 2. Los Illuminados, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is one of the best games ever made, and as a result, its primary group of villains, the devious Los Illuminados, has become one of gaming's most famous cults. As I mentioned in a previous entry, everyone is free to believe whatever they choose to believe. But if that belief involves worshipping a gross facehugger-esque parasite as a gift from God, maybe, just maybe, consider finding a new cult to spend your Saturdays at. Especially when they start trying to make you its new host. That's right, cult leader Osman Sadler plans to spread his message of peace and love by infecting his followers with a hideous Las Plagas parasite, an arthropodic monster prone to bursting the heads of its hosts like some kind of terribly messy piñata. What he neglects to mention is the fact that he is the host of the most dominant plaga, essentially giving him direct control over the minds of all of his followers. A reminder to always check the small print, guys. Not content with taking over rural Spain, Sadler and his Los Illuminados capture Ashley Graham, the daughter of the President of the United States, with an end goal of sending her back to the US to infect the President so that Sadler can take over the world. Say what you want about Los Illuminados, but you can't fault their ambition. And number 1, the Cult of the Lamb. The Cult of the Lamb. Dying, as many people will tell you, sucks. However, dying as a result of being sacrificed to an elder god is probably one of the worst ways to go. So, if the elder god in question offers to resurrect you, in exchange for dedicating your new life to resurrecting his cult, would you say yes? I know I might. Well, in Cult of the Lamb, this is not a rhetorical question, and you can find out exactly what would happen if you agreed to the terms. In this game, players are put in the hooves of the eponymous lamb, and are tasked with appeasing the not at all ominously named, the One Who Waits, by any means necessary. This involves building and maintaining the cult's village, gathering resources, venturing out into the wild to slay monsters and recruit new members, and then performing blasphemous rituals and sacrificing said new members. It's alright, they understand. The One Who Waits demands it. Those few members who players don't sacrifice can then help to keep the village running, or accompany the player on the next run to find new sacrifices. Friends. As dark as all that sounds, remember, all the creatures in this game are cute and cuddly cartoon animals, so it makes it all okay. Right?